Welcome to the Detroit Lions News Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Chap, and today we got to talk about this Detroit Lions versus the Kansas City Chiefs game because obviously we're less than 48 hours away. We'll be nearly at kickoff, Tyler, around 48 hours from now. We will be seeing who is inactive, who is active, who's not going to play, who will play. Obviously, if you're a Lions fan today, you got some pretty good news with Travis. Well, not good news, but a lot of people they want to play the Kansas City Chiefs at their best, right? You want to play the Kansas City Chiefs at their best, but ultimately, what it comes down to is like no one cared a year ago when the Detroit Lions went to Dallas or New England. They didn't have no Swift, they didn't have no St. Brown, they didn't have any of those guys. No one's going to care about the Kansas City Chiefs missing guys. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, we want to beat them full strength. Well, you're not going to beat them full strength, and the NFL doesn't work that way. Where you have a legit chance to beat the Super Bowl champion in their place on opening night, and it's going to be a good one.
Yeah. So basically, look, you can say I want to beat them at their best, this and that, but like take what you can get, take them how they are, and if you can steal a dub because they don't have a couple of their best players, then it's not like we're not happy about anybody ever being injured, but at the same time, it's not a super serious injury, and you've got to be able to say, hey, it's one less person we have to worry about, and so we're going to come out here and we're going to try our best against who their best guys are against who our best guys. It's not like we're going to reschedule and wait for all their guys to be 100% healthy. Prayers up for Travis Kelce, and hopefully,
but it doesn't matter because you know what? Look. No one cared a year ago, like I said, no one cared a year ago when the Lions had injuries and they were missing guys like St. Brown and Swift. And remember, they had that game where they were going with a starting lineup of they had Tom Kennedy in the rotation, Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds. They didn't have no DJ Chark. They didn't have no Jamison Williams. Obviously, no one cared then, and no one's going to care about what the Kansas City Chiefs are dealing with right now because, to be honest, the NFL is a game of nutrition. You're gonna get beat up. You're gonna go through a 17 game season. You're gonna have injuries, and the Lions will be that team. Maybe week 11, maybe week 10. Hopefully, they don't get any injuries, but you just hope and you pray that you don't have those injuries like the Kansas City Chiefs are having right now, or contract holdout. But we obviously don't have no Jamison Williams. We won't have an Emmanuel Mosley. We think. But that's it for the Detroit Lions on the injury front. Tyler, what's your input on that?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a good game. It's going to be our best guys versus their best guys, and move the betting favorite down a whole point to 5.5 points favorites for the Chiefs. Listen. Without Chris Jones and Travis Kelce, I like the Detroit Lions a lot more in this game. But I mean, you also have to remember you're still going against what you could already arguably say right now is a top 5 quarterback of all time, even though he's only played in the league for, I think this is what his 6th or 7th season started, sixth.
It's something like that, but
regardless, a potential an all-timer already. He's going to make plays happen. He's going to be magical. He's going to be Patrick Mahomes. That is a true definition of a guy that can elevate any team, especially in an Andy Reid system. So it's not like we're going to be. We still have to look out for these. We watch out for these guys. I mean, these are still a very good team, and it's still the Super Bowl reigning champions. And you definitely have to give them their respect, and don't act like this is going to be a super winnable game just because they have 2 players out. But I ultimately do think, it does help the game become a lot closer. And I definitely see that we have a chance, we have an opportunity, and if we can come in here and go to Arrowhead. And we can steal one from the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be a great start to the season. So,
yeah, I totally agree with you. I think this is a game of where the Detroit Lions could really flex their muscle because one of the things that the Detroit Lions have at their disposal is if Chris Jones does not play on Thursday night, you're potentially going to have a top 5 offensive line going against a defensive line that is missing Charles Omenihu. You're going to be missing Chris Jones. And when you put that all in the equation, it's like basically like if the Lions are missing Aiden Hutchinson and Ali McNeil, you miss those guys, you're going to be in a lot of hurt. And look, they can't miss those guys. Just like the Kansas City defense, they can't miss guys like Chris Jones and Amanu. They're going to have obviously Karlaftis, which is the second-year player out of Purdue. We all know if you were a Big Ten fan, you watched George Karlaftis. He was a legit player, but ultimately, Chris Jones is the big one that stirs the drink, and he's their big-time player on the defensive end.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are. I mean, they they're where they were for a reason. They kind of fought through some adversity last year, and they ended up finding a way to make the Super Bowl and to win it. So someone you definitely can't take lightly. Like I said, the whole Chris Jones situation, I'm very thankful for, and so I'm definitely looking forward to what is going to come. So. Yeah, man. I mean, we'll obviously go through our score predictions and our bold predictions for the week. But as far as, without getting into that too deep and without letting too much out of the bag, I definitely think this is a very winnable game. We got to come in here and we got to get that you can't like let the offseason and preseason hype, be superseded by like an absolute ass whipping from the Chiefs. Like, you need to keep this game close. You need to make it a close game because there's been so much hype. There's been so much talk. There's been so much stuff going on around your team this offseason and preseason that you can't afford to come out flat week one. Like, you have to go make a statement. Even if it's a shoot losing, that's all right. But it can't be like a 21-point blowout. We need to go into Arrowhead. We need to make this a close game. We need to have some statements made, and especially about some of these new guys. We need to go in and we need to just punch them right in the mouth.
Well, I mean, here's the thing about your offensive line. Your offensive line is going to stir the drink on what you want to do. Because I think what you have with David Montgomery, with Jahmyr Gibbs, with guys like that, you're going to be able to run the ball and keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes. The number one thing that you could always talk about with some of these good quarterbacks, and it was a staple of Bill Belichick when they played Peyton Manning, was keep the ball out of his hands, because when he has the ball in his hands, he can make things happen. And when you have a great quarterback like Peyton Manning, like Patrick Mahomes, like Tom Brady, as much as possible, you're trying to keep the ball out of their hands. So you got the run game to do it. You got the offensive line to do it. You got two running backs that can potentially start for for a lot of teams. Jahmyr Gibbs being that utility guy that can catch passes out of the backfield, run the ball. Dave Montgomery can run the ball. You got guys that can run crisp routes like Amon-Ra St. Brown, like a Marvin Jones. It sets up well for Detroit. Obviously, with no Chris Jones, it makes it easier because on the other side, you have Danny Shelton, who is playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. He'll probably start for their defensive tackle. And I don't know where Tyler keeps going.
Oh, I'm here, baby.
Nah, you keep fizzling out. We need to get you a damn Red Bull. Let's go. It's football time. You keep fizzling out. Now, anyway, we have to run the ball down their throats. Like, you have to run their ball down the throats because you want to keep the ball away from them. You're trying to keep the ball and not make stupid decisions.
No, you do, and I think it's going to be a team that's a little bit more balanced in their identity. Like last year, like, I mean, look, and again, I continually talk about this every week. But I also tell people, like, look, you have to like see that we upgraded in a lot of positions, so that like I think people like I said before, Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift, they had talent, but they were another classic case of like overhyped by their own fan base. I definitely think David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, that duo, is definitely better than they were, and so you have to like utilize those strengths. And by having a good run game, it's going to open up the play action, and that's where Jared Goff thrives, is in the play action and the short and intermediate routes. That allows your Khalif Raymonds and your Josh Reynolds and your Amon-Ra to get open early and often.
Now, I want to figure this out from you, Tyler, because a lot of people keep talking about how with the Travis Kelce out, with Chris Jones out, does it make it a must-win for the Detroit Lions? Now, when you say must-win, obviously you mean playoff implications, stuff like that. But most of the time when you say must-win, you mean this is a game you probably could have easily, and it could sway the way that you play. Because look at it this way. Green Bay has to play Kansas City. Chicago and Minnesota have to play Kansas City. So inevitably, if you win this game, it could be a swing in the division, because how many of those other teams are beating Kansas City? I'm gonna venture out a guess, none. Like
Yeah.
I think that Detroit's the most prepared team to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but I'm not gonna say like for sure that they could beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, I know that they can. But if you're saying which team would you put money on to beat the Chiefs out of the whole NFC North, it'd be the Detroit Lions.
Yeah. Well, and like I said earlier, like as long as it's a close game, like you're looking for positivity, you're looking for positives to go out there, like last year, the Eagles, right? We go out. I wonder how different our season is if we go out week 1 and we end up beating the Eagles.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like we were so close in so many games. If you look when we were like 1-8 or 1-7 or whatever, dude, we had lost like 4 games by 1 score, and I remember we talked about it so many times in the pod. Like there was literally, what did we say? We counted like there were like 4 or 5 plays away from being 4-1. Like I'm talking plays. I'm not talking about quarters. I'm not talking about minutes. I'm talking about there were like 5 fucking plays. 5 plays away from being a 4-1 football team at the time.
Well,
And that's how tight the margin is in the NFL. So you come out here and you have a decent game against the Chiefs, it's gonna speak volumes for your season.
We talked about it last year with the Philadelphia game, right? They had chances to win that game. They didn't do it enough on the defensive side of the ball. They had a chance to win the Minnesota game. They lost that. They had a chance to win the Seattle game. They didn't force a damn punt in the whole game. This is a different team. The defense is way better. You look at the secondary. You got Cameron Sutton. You got Emmanuel. Emmanuel Mosley's not going to play in this game, obviously, but you got Jerry Jacobs, who was one of the best completion. He had the best quarterback rating against on the whole Detroit Lions team last year. And with Cameron Sutton, you're adding another guy who was elite against the quarterback last year.
Yeah. So absolutely.
So you're adding playmakers. Like we didn't know who Kirby Joseph was at this time last year. Okay, we didn't know. Well, we know now that we have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which adds more fuel to the fire. And then you add this missile, this bullet, whatever you want to call him, in Brian Branch, who we don't know how Brian Branch is going to be utilized with the Detroit Lions. All I can venture a guess is what Aaron Glenn is going to be able to do with this guy, because he has Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He could deploy Brian Branch in certain situations, and with Travis Kelce out, you could potentially deploy a guy like Brian Branch on a guy like Noah Gray or Sky Moore.
No, and it's important. It's going to be, it'll help. Like I said, it'll help open up a lot of things. Like there's nothing. Look, we're in a unique position, and I like this. You go out, you don't want to face the Kansas City Chiefs when it's week 16 and you need 2 games to win to get into the playoffs, right? You don't want to face the Kansas City Chiefs when they're maybe on like a little bit of a slide and they need to win. They need to rattle off 3 in a row to get first place in the division. They have extra fire lit under their ass. This is a perfect time to play a team like this, is in the very beginning of the season, because you know what? If you lose, it's not a big deal. You can learn from it. You can bounce back. You just played against the best quarterback in the league and the reigning champs. But if you come out here and you make a statement, and if you win, like, holy shit, the Detroit Lions just beat Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead, and that is going to set the tone for the entire season. So I think there's a lot more for us to gain than there is to lose, because if we lose, it was expected. It's not a huge deal, but if we win, man, it really sets the tone. So I'm thankful this is a week 1 game and not a week 16 or week 15 game.
I expect to win Thursday. I know this is like kind of like strange for a lot of Lions fans, but I expect to win. Like there's a lot of games that I go in expecting to win. Now, are you going to win every game? Absolutely not. We all know that you're not going to win every game, but everyone says that this is a different Detroit Lions team. This is a team that could be a contender in NFC. You go out there and you show it in front of one of the loudest stadiums, and we have a Chiefs fan that is watching this right now. He says, welcome to Arrowhead, the loudest stadium in the world. That's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a stadium that is bonkers, and with Detroit Lions, we're kind of, we know what, playing with loud fans can cause: false starts, pre-snap penalties, all that stuff. Because, with Detroit, we have the Ford Field, and we have some badass fans too, and that place is going to be loud as hell when they come back after a win against the Kansas City Chiefs. So, if you're a Detroit Lions fan, if you're a Detroit Lions player, you played in front of loud crowds before. Obviously, Arrowhead is the next step up, but it's what the visiting teams in Detroit are going to be dealing with too. So, these fans can make a difference.
Oh, absolutely, they can. They're a huge part of the game, and Jared Goff. I want to take a second to go over this. Jared Goff's home and away splits last year were pretty bad. Like, not bad. They were very skewed towards the home. Like, I think out of his 29 touchdowns, I think he had 23 of them at home. So, Jared Goff is statistically not great on the road, but he's lights out at home. If we can, and there's been a lot of talk, a lot of different players saying how much they think he's taking that next step. He's taking that next step in the offseason. He's taking that next step in the preseason. And his leadership is taking the next step. And he's gotten praise from Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, and they're talking about possibly extending him, and all the players really rally around Jared. If he can really show up, not only and do well, not only in a away game, but in Arrowhead against the reigning champions, I think that's going to speak volumes to Jared and his year and his kind of trajectory to his career. What people don't realize, and I want to hear your opinions on this after I'm done, Joe, but a lot of people what don't realize is that quarterbacks start to enter their prime around age 29. And that is super strange because in most sports we see most people enter their prime at 24, 25, 26. But if you notice, a lot of players like Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, a lot of these guys didn't even win their first Super Bowl until they were 30. And They say a lot of the time that your prime as a quarterback is generally from age like 28, 29 up until about 34, 35.
I mean, I would put it more towards the middle, like 26, 25, depending on when they came.
Man, it's tough. If you look statistically, man, a lot of quarterbacks, they don't actually start winning a lot of their games. I mean, and they may be, and I'm not necessarily talking about a physical or athletic prime, but I'm talking about the stuff that comes with it, the IQ, the mental aspect of the game, limiting their mistakes, limiting their turnovers. I mean, a lot of these top guys, didn't win their first Super Bowls until 30, 31 years old, and then they went on an absolute tear. If you look at Tom Brady during his 30s versus his 20s, absolute monster. You look at Peyton Manning in his 30s versus his 20s, absolute monster. Even Aaron Rodgers, his 30s versus his 20s. I mean, he just night and day different. So if you see Jared Goff able to take control of that and actually come in and start making some noise on the road, I think we could be looking at, this could potentially be, one of the biggest years of his career and warrant a good extension. This is an important year for Jared.
There's no doubt that this is the biggest year of Jared Goff's career. I mean, there's very little doubt that this is the biggest year of his career, because
this is like a career-defining year. What are you made of?
No, this is a big year for his career, no matter what, no matter how you slice it, because this is one of those pivotal years in your career. Like, they want to see, if you're in the NFL, they want to see what you could do when the chips are down. Now, when you have a team like the Detroit Lions have right now, where you are a team that could be a potential Super Bowl champion team, this is a huge year for your team. And for Jared Goff, this is an absolute huge year. Now, this is absolutely huge for Jared Goff to be better. I mean, last year, if you go at the beginning of the year, he had a problem with pick sixes, and then the last 10 games he turned it on where he was not turning the ball over at all. Now, obviously, that that when you he's going to turn the ball over at some point. It's just about minimizing it. And last year, this team wasn't built to withstand a guy who was turning the ball over. It just wasn't. And Jared Goff did a pretty good job of keeping the ball. Now, I'm interested to see what Jared Goff does when he knows that he has a defense. He can take these chances that he hasn't been able to take before and make these throws that he hasn't made before.
Yeah, and I think it's important because, you're looking at a team that really now has the opportunity to change, kind of flip the script and put your weaknesses and turn to your strengths. I see a guy in the comment section here. He said,
that's Philly.
Let me see here.
No, it's Phil. I got it. It's on the screen.
Yeah. So just talking about, the strengths of the team. and how we've changed. So I like that because if we can turn some of our weaknesses into strengths, it's like what other areas are going to be your weaknesses now? And good teams, they minimize their weaknesses, but with our secondary being the way it is, I don't know if necessarily I agree with the secondary being the strength of our defense, but I can see and I can confidently say that they've vastly improved. I would say that the strongest part of our defense right now is probably our D line, just the depth that we have in our pass rushers. We have, and that's my opinion. We have Aquara, we've got Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston, we've got Josh Pascal, we got Levi Onzawerke playing really well during the preseason. I think if you were to maximize and say where we can be the best, I like our pass rush a lot. I still think there's room for a guy to like really step up and be that true number 2 edge rusher outside of Aiden. There's still room for like a really like dominant edge on the other side. But you're getting to a point where it's like you're nitpicking and saying I see potential in all the spots. Like even the linebackers with the addition of Jack Campbell, the secondary with the addition of Mosley and Sutton and Branch. I see this defense, like you said a couple weeks ago, potentially could be a top 10 defense. I still see this defense huge improvement from last year, and I'm excited to see what they look like because you know what, life gets a lot easier on the offense if the defense can make stops and can help you win games.
Oh, I agree. But I wanted your take on this, Tyler, because this was the most interesting thing of the last couple days. Isaiah Bugs. Now, I usually don't get involved in the whole social media. I scrub my social media because basically I'm immature. That's what it comes down to. But the majority of it is what we can tell from what Dan Campbell has been saying, what Isaiah Bugs said yesterday, that it basically came down to a personnel decision, okay? And when you know that you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, when you know you're going to be playing Patrick Mahomes, you know it takes a different type of player to play Patrick Mahomes. Now, I understand where Isaiah Bugs is coming from. I understand that he wants to play against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's totally understandable. I also believe that if you are a coach, you put your team in the best position to win, period. Period. Okay? So if Isaiah Bugs isn't meant, if he wasn't playing up to the level that the coaches want and they're keeping him out of this game, one, that tells me that the coaches don't take anything lightly, okay? Like if you're not going to come ready and you're not going to be prepared to play the Kansas City Chiefs, the world champions, you're not going to play. Now, what I see with Isaiah Bugs is this is what pisses me off about Isaiah Bugs, okay? You're with a team that potentially could win the NFC, okay? You're with a team that could potentially win the NFC. And the fact that you are being like that you're being self-centered, you made it about you by scrubbing your social media and putting all these cryptic tweets out there. Like, it's just not warranted. And let's be honest, Isaiah Bugs is a perfectly replaceable player looking forward. Like, if they lost Isaiah Bugs tomorrow, are you saying, oh my God, we lost Isaiah Bugs, the season's over? Hell no. So Isaiah Bugs needs to realize how he's coming from and actually look at himself in the face and go, dude, I'm like one of 53. Okay, there's only like 10 guys on this roster that are set in stone.
Yeah, and I'd like to, you know how I am. I like to play devil's advocate a little bit here. I like to see things from both sides. For one, the reason I'm laughing and chuckling and smirking is, as you can see, I'm not trying to hide that. I keep thinking about Lions fans, and this is actually making me laugh. Lions fans were actually thinking and contemplating that like Isaiah Bugs was going out in a trade for Mike Evans. Like he was the centerpiece of some fucking trade for a top 10 or top 15 receiver. I literally
or Aaron Donald.
I'm hearing it's Isaiah Bugs and a fourth for Mike Evans. I'm like, yeah, dude, you just rolling from Stupid Town or what? Oh yeah, and Aaron Donald too. I'm like, listen, bro, if we need to get Mike Evans or Aaron Donald, which I'd love Aaron Donald if he wanted to be here, but if Aaron Donald were to leave anywhere but LA, he would just retire.
Right.
But like I would love that, but Isaiah Bugs, is like a fringe like DT4, DT3 on like a middle of the road team. Stop, like this guy is not any part of any trade discussions around a guy like Mike Evans.
Right.
He might be if it's like, oh, it's like it's attached to him to like be some sort of salary move or whatever, for it to make sense. But it's not going to be what it's centered around the trade. As far as him, and I just want to get that out of the way because Lions fans are some Lions fans are very delusional. Outside of that, in terms of like my takes on the whole thing, I think that I try to think of this in both ways. For one, I do see your point, and I think it's selfish about like trying to make it about you and trying to put the attention on you because it kind of takes away and distracts from the team. And that's not what our culture is really about. The only kind of part I can see is that like he's a competitor. He wants to play. He wants to be here. He wants to contribute. And, he was probably upset that he wasn't going to play. But at the same time, be so good that you can't be replaced. Or if the team's deciding to go on a different route this week, don't have to do it immaturely with the cryptic tweaks and the scrubbing and the social media. And I totally get where you're coming from with that. I'm not agreeing with that. I just, I think that he really wanted to play. He's a little disappointed.
I don't care.
He is being immature about it, but
I don't care if you want to
play. The passion's there.
I don't care if you want to play. The reality of the situation is sometimes you have to put your team in front of you. Okay. Yeah. It's not about you as a player.
But if he feels like he's the best version that can be put forth to the team, then
no, screw that. You're not Aaron Donald. You're not a Lee McNeil. You're not any of those guys. You're not Hutchinson. You're not Penei Sewell. I don't care. You got to learn. This is what pisses me off about the new age like kids out there. Okay, like I'm 29. Okay, so I'm not some old boomer that's going to tell you like, oh, back in my day, we just played the way it was supposed to be played. No. But what I am telling you is when you have the shot to be on a championship level team, the one thing that you have to just recognize and understand is that sometimes you won't be playing when you think, right? You won't be playing. That's why I hate this transfer portal with the college football. Because what it's really told kids is when shit gets hard, I could just leave. When I am put against the test, I could just leave. And I expect more from Isaiah Buggs because of the program that he came from. Nick Saban wouldn't have dealt with that. But in this new age transfer portal, I think Isaiah Buggs is way past that. But when you I just don't like the new age of some of these players. Like, they think it's all about them. Isaiah Buggs, I hate to tell you this, but like anybody that could come in here and play your position at a higher level, I mean, you would be on the chopping block. The Detroit Lions put a 2-year contract on your table, and you're about to like make some cryptic tweets and kind of act immature.
I
totally uncalled for.
And I see that because I mean, the right kind of player, they're going to put their head down and they're going to say, look, I need to be better. I need to work harder. I don't know what that was all about. I mean, it was just kind of a, like you said, kind of a desperation like for attention. Like, hey, I want everyone to look at me. I want everyone to see, that I'm not playing this and that. Like, I think we've treated him as an organization, and I don't know. I'm not in all the meetings. I'm not in all the extension or the contract negotiations. I'm not in the team meetings, but it looks to me like that's a guy who was kind of a fringe guy, and we reward him with a 2-year deal. And, he should kind of be, thankful in that respect, in that regard. Like I said, the only part I do see is obviously him wanting to play and be a competitor. But I also understand like the right kind of guy will put their head down and just work twice as hard to get there. Like if you, and we would never do this, but now, of course, but if Amon Ra, if we were to 2 years ago, we were to healthy scratch him for a game or two and say, hey, what we were seeing in practice or training camp lately wasn't good lately. Like he would put his head down and he would work twice as hard, and he's not going to.
If Amon Ra was scratched during a game, he would literally burn everyone's ass to get back on the field. Period. Yeah. Like that's the way it's supposed to be. But now you got some of these people that they're so entitled to their position. And
I like kind of like what you said. Like where the hell is Isaiah Buggs going to go play?
And I like what Dar said. He said probably because a rookie will outplay Buggs, he definitely makes Buggs look small. And you know what? Broderick Martin could potentially be outplaying Bugs in practice, and the coaches are seeing
Well,
it.
I'm hearing that Benito Jones is outplaying Isaiah Bugs in
Well,
practice
if
as
Benito
well.
Jones is outplaying you, you know what? Your ass deserves to be on the bench.
Right.
I mean, let's just be honest. Now, there is a player that I think it could potentially be. He could potentially be a guy who we could be talking about in the middle of the year. And I want to get your opinion on this, Tyler. Levi Onwuzurike. He's finally healthy. He's on the roster right now.
Big
What
O.
what does he have to do? What does he have to do to kind of get that mojo and get your confidence back in him? Because I've never really wavered from the kid. I understand, and reading that piece from the from whatever publication that he wrote that piece on about how he had those back surgeries and then he fell down the stairs, like incredible stuff. This guy's a warrior, but the fact that he's finally healthy, I would love to see what he is capable of. I truly would, because obviously Brad Holmes drafted him in the second round. He knew something.
Well, fans turn sour on guys for not good reasons sometimes. Like Levi O, like he's never. It doesn't seem like he's ever been a shitty teammate. It doesn't seem like he's ever been rude or arrogant or like really like the kind of guy to make so much like negative noise that you're kind of sick of it, right? He's been hurt, he's been injured, and guys can't help. Guys can't help where they're drafted for the most part. Like it's not in their hands; they're not the one making the calls. And for B, they can't always help when they get hurt and they're injured. So for me, what's got to move the needle for me on him is he's got to be able to I'm just looking at this guy, even though he was a second round pick and some viewed him as a first round pick. I am perfectly content and okay with this guy just being a very solid rotational piece. I want a guy that can play 30 snaps a game. He can, provide you maybe like 4 to 5 sacks per year, 3 to 4 sacks per year, help you stuff up the run a little bit and just be available. I mean, if he can play, 12 to 14 games, like I'll be very happy because we need the rotational depth. I mean, you talk about all of a sudden you're taking out Pascal, Aiden, and James Houston, and you got guys like Benito Jones, Levi O, John Kaminsky. Like you need to have a serviceable and formidable second unit that can come in and keep the game going. So I'm not looking for Levi to come save this defensive line. But everyone knows if you're a real fan, everyone knows that a healthy Levi O can really bolster the depth of this line and really it's like getting a second round pick back. It's kind of like how when JMO comes back, it was like getting a rookie again this year. Like he didn't really play last year. Like you're getting another guy with super high potential and a super high ceiling that could like be one of those guys that surprises you by making a big impact. And you keep that philosophy going every year where you got these guys that have potential and they reach even a fraction of that and they're able to help the depth of this team. Like that's going to be awesome. So like I said, if he can get to the position where he's getting 4 to 5 sacks, 40 to 50 tackles, he's playing 12 to 14 games on maybe 30 to 35 snaps a game, I'll be ecstatic. And I don't think it's fair to ask for much more, just considering his injury history. But I would be more than happy to see him contribute in some way to that line.
Well, when Levi Onwuzurike was drafted out of Washington, one of the main things that he brought to the table was his pass rushing ability. And when you can rush the passer, especially in that conference that he's in, the Pac-12, which is probably about to go by the wayside, And I loved Scott's comment. I'll put it on here. He says, I agree with your comments on the transfer portal, but hard to criticize players for bailing on teams when schools are bailing on their conferences. I agree with you, Scott. That's part of the problem in college sports right now. It's bizarro world in college sports. But back to Levi Onwuzurike. Levi Onwuzurike he's an interesting character. I loved him coming out of Washington. I think that the ability to rush the passer was paramount. And I thought when they drafted Onwuzurike, when they drafted Ely McNeil, like I loved Ely McNeil more than I loved Onwuzurike, because when you look at it, the fact that Ely McNeil was a guy who could potentially play for a baseball scholarship at his size, his height, man, that's an athletic guy, and the fact that he's shielded a bunch of weight in the offseason makes me think that he could potentially be a guy who could rush the passer this year.
Bro, Lee McNeil played center field, bro, and he's like 300 pounds.
That's what I'm saying. When you have a guy like that that's an athletic freak, I mean, with him, if you can get him and Anzarike on the same page, along with Pascal, because Pascal can go in the interior pass rush. John Kaminsky can go in the interior pass rush. Hell, last year I seen Aaron Glenn put Aiden Hutchinson in the interior pass rush, and I thought that was just wild. Like, it was just insane. But when you look at that, like, this is a potential that this team could be really, really good. And I like that Anzarike could potentially be a guy that could come back. Where are you going, Tyler?
We're good, bro. I had to take a couple bites of my dinner, bro.
No. We got a show to do. Now, we got to get to our key matchups because
I worked a 13-hour day, man. I'm hungry as hell.
I did too. I still haven't ate. Now, we got to get to our key matchups. I'm gonna put that on here. Key matchups. Let's go through my key matchups and your key matchups. We both have a similar one. Lions offensive line, Chiefs defensive line, Lions offensive line. For me, Chiefs defensive line for me. We have a split decision. Why is this a matchup that you're going to be watching?
Yeah, just like the matchups I picked, or
yeah. Well, no, that's what I just said.
Yeah. So I wanted you to pull the graphic back up. All right. So why I'm watching Aiden, because I want to see where he actually, part of this is kind of weird because I actually am interested in seeing where he lines up. So is he going to be playing just primarily left end, or is he going to be switching between left end, right end? Where is he going to be lining up? Is he going to kick it inside? And then I also want to see, how do they see to utilize that? So because I know that at times, Aiden Hutchinson, he lines up outside the right tackle, and sometimes he lines up over the left tackle. I want to see what that looks like. Donovan Smith, interesting addition. He's come over from the Buccaneers over to the Chiefs. And I think that, I want to see how he's able to dominate either of these guys and kind of show, can he get to Patrick Mahomes? Can he get to the quarterback? Can he, set the edge? And, what can he do on that? And then as far as the other matchup, on the other side of the ball being Amon-Ra versus, I'm assuming it's either going to be L'Jarius Sneed or Trent McDuffie. I'm interested to see because L'Jarius Sneed is a very fast player. I mean, McDuffie's pretty fast too. They have a pretty fast secondary, guys that all ran in like the 4.3s. And a guy like Amon-Ra, who is more like a middle, like 4.5, 4.6, 40 guy, but elite route running and just can get crazy separation. I'm curious to see how he starts the season off, how many targets he's able to command, and how he's able to shake off some of these speedy corners and find his routes. Because the Chiefs don't have a very good linebacker core. So Amon-Ra should be able to get to that second level and find a lot. A lot of his catches come from mid in routes and slant routes and like deep posts and a lot of like intermediate field stuff. So I'm interested to see if he's able to shake either of those corners frequently to be able to get to that middle level where he can kind of sneak in and get a lot of those slants and in routes. And then just the offensive line versus the defensive line, or rather our defensive line versus their offensive line. Just the fact that our offensive line is very strong and their defensive line right now is looking very weak without Chris Jones. So can we do enough to really maul those guys to where we can allow Gibbs and Montgomery to control this game? Not only to control the speed of the game, control the clock. When you have a good run game going, I mean, look at last year against Carolina Panthers. They had their run game clicking on all facets, and they absolutely knocked our.
Well, that's partly because we just sucked.
But you know what? But when your run game is going, it's very hard to stop.
Well, that's what I've been saying. That's what I said earlier.
Our offensive line should be able, without Chris Jones, we should be able to maul these bastards.
That's what I said earlier about you control the clock, you can win a lot of games. So it's interesting if you could see what's going to happen with that. And I'm interested. You said Aiden against the tackles. Which tackle do you want him to play against the most?
I mean, I would probably say Donovan Smith over on the left side because that would show, obviously show our confidence in Aiden being able to attack Mahomes from the blind side, but it would also, I think Donovan Smith's a little better, so it allow a better match.
No, if Aiden Hutchinson goes against Donovan Smith, I will tell you this right now. Donovan Smith might set the record for holding penalties. I mean, last year he set the record for holding penalties.
And I didn't mean better of between Aiden and Donovan Smith. I meant better as in him and Juwan Taylor. But
I think Juwan Taylor better.
If we get a good matchup on Aiden and Donovan Smith, and Aiden does get held a lot, which sucks. But if we can kind of control over that side and he's able to feed him off, we should be able to get a good rush on the other side with a combination of like James Houston, Aquara, Charles Harris, whoever we have over there that's kind of getting to the pass rusher. So I'd rather him take that blind side and see kind of what's going on there, because you're typically the better defenders in the league. I mean, you're trying to match them up against they're better tackles. So we'll see. But I think I'd rather have him lining up as a right end and being able to go against Donovan Smith, because I think he's going to be able to contain that edge, and that's what I'm looking for. I want, like last year there were some struggles because he wasn't containing the edge as well as he could have been in a lot of games because he was a rookie, he was young, he was inexperienced. I think that he's taken a big step forward in his game this offseason and in this preseason. He's seems to be a guy that is a student of the game and is really, really hard worker. So yeah, man, I want to go in there and see him blow some shit up and see if he can. What I'd love to see is if his prowess and his power is enough to be able to allow other guys to come in there and finish the job.
I agree with it. I like the one about Amon-Ra St. Brown because I really think that's a matchup they can really exploit. Obviously, we agree with the Chiefs tackles and Aiden Hutchinson in the Lions offensive line versus the Chiefs defensive line. But I have one that I have one that I'm really interested in because I think Jahmyr Gibbs could be a potential, he could just be a potential mismatch every time he's on the field. If you put Jahmyr Gibbs on a linebacker, it's a mismatch for Detroit. You put Jahmyr Gibbs on, let's say, a corner, it's a mismatch for Detroit, you would say, because he's a little bit bigger than the corner in most cases. I think Trent McDuffie is a pretty big corner, but that's about it. But if you're talking about how can we put Jahmyr Gibbs in the best spot to be a mismatch, this is what you're going to be able to do. You get him out in the flat, you get him out on a screen, you get him out on a Texas route. Those are chances that you can really put Jahmyr Gibbs in the best spot because we know how good of a runner he is. We know how good of a runner Jahmyr Gibbs is, okay? There's no doubt about it. But if you could put him in a case where he's doing a Texas route and maybe Dave Montgomery's going out towards the flat, that could really open up a lot of mismatches for the Detroit Lions offense to exploit. Just having him out, just having a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs out there could really, maybe maybe it gets open Sam Laporta or Brock Wright, one of those guys. It's going to give them the opportunity to kind of, maybe there's a guy that's supposed to be on Sam Laporta who kind of shields coverage towards Jahmyr Gibbs. That's when you're going to be in a really good case of Jahmyr Gibbs pretty much exploiting matchups.
Well, and what I think people don't realize too is that which I'm sure if you really think about it, it's not too hard to deduce. But if Jahmyr Gibbs is commanding safeties and linebackers to have to guard him on wheel routes or swing routes or Texas routes or just any routes in general, and he's good at running routes and he commands, a corner or a safety or a linebacker to guard him, then that's going to open up the field so much more through the middle with Amon-Ra and Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond, a lot of these guys that run a lot of drag routes and inside routes. So getting him involved with this kind of intricate route tree is going to allow other guys to be able to have that middle of the field wide open. And like I said, Amon-Ra lives in the middle of the field, man. He loves to hit those different tiers and levels. And if you can get a guy like Gibbs that occupies a safety or a linebacker, it allows your guys to be able to just eat up the middle of the field.
I totally agree with that. I think that, I like Aiden Hutchinson against these Chiefs tackles. I think that he's going to eat against these Chiefs tackles. I think this offensive line is going to be really, really they're going to dominate towards the point of attack against the Chiefs defensive line. I'm not really worried about that. I really like the Gibbs matchup on any of their guys that are covering around the backfield. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this, Tyler, because this is part of our parlay portion. I know people love betting. Okay, I know you love betting. I know I want to incorporate that into the program. So I got two for you. I got two for you. I got bets parlay. I got on the first one. I got it's $20. You can win $323. I think it is. It's Pacheco, St. Brown, Dave Montgomery. Lions cover the spread. You always take the spread. I don't care what anybody tells you. Money line's always scary. You can take money line, but if you cover the spread and they don't win, you still make your money. The second one, I want you to focus on this one, Tyler, because this is where we can get a little bit chintzy. But guess what? We're trying to win some money. So look at Amon-Ra St. Brown anytime touchdown. The Detroit Lions cover a spread. Guess who scores a touchdown in his debut? Rookie Jahmyr Gibbs. Kadarius Toney scores a touchdown for Kansas City, and Patrick Mahomes throws for 225 yards, which is, I think anybody of us can say, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is probably going to throw for 225 yards.
Yeah. So
out of those ones, which one really would you put your money on?
I would take the one. I'd be interested to see what the odds are if you took out Kadarius Toney scoring, because that would be something that I would like to do. Is that one on the right without the Kadarius Toney scoring? I am so like confused on the current state and the future of this Kansas City offense, and there are so many options it could go. It could be Justin Ross, it could be Rashee Rice, it could be Isaac Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, Travis Kelce. Well, Kelsey's not probably playing, but like there's so many routes it can go for scoring, and he likes to spread that ball so much, and no one has come out and been the clear 1, 2, or 3 guy. They've got like a plethora of just average receivers. So I like the one on the right a lot, but I would probably nix the Kadarius Toney touchdown. And it could happen, and you guys could make fun of me and laugh and whatever. But I just don't know how much faith I have in the pecking order of the Kansas City Chiefs offense to be comfortable with that. But outside of that, I like that. I mean, I like Lions covering the spread. I like Amon-Ra touchdown. I like the Gibbs touchdown because he's such a dynamic scorer, whether it's on the ground or through the air. And I think Patrick Mahomes throws for, even though our defense is good, better, and we've supposedly our secondary is just so much better now than it was last year. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He's at least gonna hang 250 on us easy.
Well, back on your thing about taking Kadarius Toney out. If you take Kadarius Toney out, you're only going to win $151 on their plus. It's going to be plus 759. So you're not really going to make the money. I mean, if you take out Kadarius Toney, I get it. But with no Travis Kelce in the lineup, I do like Kadarius Toney's chances. Obviously,
yeah, I wonder too about what would be interesting is that parlay on the right by replacing Kadarius Toney with an Isaac Pacheco anytime touchdown.
Yeah, you could do that too. Yeah, I don't know who would you take, Dave Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs as anytime touchdown for the running portion?
I think David Montgomery is going to get the goal line carries, but Jahmyr Gibbs is just so electric. He can pop. I mean, at any time. I mean, that's a 80-yard touchdown in a bottle. Like the guy. Yeah. I mean, if anyone's going to break one off, because you don't know how much we're going to get to the inside the 5, inside the 10. It's kind of like last year, right? Do you take Jamal Williams or do you take someone else scoring? I mean,
no. Do you have any implications on taking one of these guys because they are plus 200 or above? Okay, so you got Marvin Jones, Kadarius Toney, Sam Laporta, Josh Reynolds is plus 350. If you take a Patrick Mahomes rushing touchdown, it's plus 410. You got Justin Watson, Justin Ross, Rashee Rice, which is their good rookie for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's plus 490. So just a little bit of value. Something
on that. Kind of interesting that I would almost kind of want to would see is my buddy and I were discussing this earlier. My buddy Mike, shout out Mike, what's up, dude? If you're listening, is that if you It'd be interesting to see if you could do a parlay with these different rookies scoring in their debut, because some of these guys, the NFL hasn't seen them before. I would almost be, I'd be kind of interested to see what like a Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta stack is, and maybe roll with it. I mean, I like the idea of us. Like, dude, we've had games last year where
if you did a Sam Laporta Gibbs touchdown with the Lions covering a spread, it'd be $20 would win you $287.
I like that a lot.
Now, if you took Sam Laporta out and let's say you put in the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice, $20 would win you $508. And I secretly like that one because Rashee Rice he's got a lot of attention throughout the whole Kansas City Chiefs training camp, and I just like that out of that.
Yeah, and I think that wouldn't be a bad move. I think if there's any weeks that you can get creative and just say screw it, someone's gonna score. What's more fun than week one? Nick says I think I'll take Detroit and the points. This point spread is too low. Yeah, I mean,
listen, I'm gonna tell you one thing right now. If I'm gonna give you any gambling advice whatsoever, 5.5 is the devil's number. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So if you see if it's 5.5 going into game time at 48 hours from now, because this is when we're going to be starting at 8:15, you're going to start to see the Detroit Lions, Kansas City Chiefs pregame. We're going to be ready to go. I might be boozed up. I might do a live after. Who knows? Because I got the day off Friday. But if it's 5.5 at game time,
take the line. Take the money line if it's 5.5.
Yeah, take the money line easily.
The way I think of it too is with that spread is if you want spread, if you're like, I don't know, change the alternate spread to where it's plus 7.5, and then add an anytime touchdown in, because what that'll do is it'll boost your odds value, and it's safer. So if you're like, I don't know if we'll win, but it will make it close. Like Joe said, 5.5 is stupid because how many teams win by 4 or 5? You either win by 3, 6, 7, 10, something like that. And most of the time it's 7 or 3. Most of the time.
Sprinkle that money on the alternate line.
Alternate 7.5, and then add a touchdown.
Now I don't know what to do with this. I have no idea what to do with this over under, because
hold on, I have one suggestion first before you get into that. And it's if you guys use DraftKings, there is a promo right now where it's up to $50. And if you bet the money line and the Lions go up by 7 at any point, you win the bet. Put your $50 on that right now. That means if we go out and score first and it's 7-0, you win the entire bet. It cashes out at money line. So $50. At the time, money line was plus 225. It's probably shifted since the Kelsey news. But basically, you'll put in $50, and if they go up 7-0 or they go up by 7 at any time, you get 150 back. So take that. Anyways,
I think it's interesting, the over under. A lot of people are betting the over 54.5, right? Live right now it's 53.5, so it's went down a point since the Travis Kelce injury. I'm interested to see, what do you think about the over under?
That's a really hard one, because I had a friend of mine who actually texted me and said he bet the under. I calculated it up. If you 53.5, so 53 points is it was like a 27-24 game or something like that. Let me see. So 27 plus 24 is 51. I'm sorry. My math is trash. So to go, like, I don't know. I kind of see this being an over, just because, like, the way that the Chiefs are always kind of in shootout mode, and the Lions are kind of in a position where we want to kind of score a bunch of points. I could easily see this being like a 35-28 game. But in the same retrospect, if you told me then the score was 27-24 or 24-21, I mean, I couldn't argue with you. So I'm staying way the hell away from this on an over-under aspect, just because I have no idea what to expect from either of these defenses.
I don't know what to expect from any of these defenses either, because, I mean, obviously if Chris Jones isn't playing for Kansas City, that opens up something. With Patrick Mahomes on the other side, you got to always.
Week one, teams are trying to score, like.
Well, not only that, but I forget the stat. that in the first couple weeks that the offenses are ahead of the defenses, so you start to see more high scoring games in the first 4 weeks. I want to put something on the screen for a lot of people. So this is for what this graphic shows right here is that the Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs are one of the best teams at creating separation from the routes on broken coverages. Now this really puts into perspective with the Detroit Lions and Kansas City Chiefs how great their offensive minds are on their coaching staff. But more importantly, it shows a lot about how good they are at doing so, and Detroit's a little bit better at doing so. So when we talk about the key matchups in all of this, we talk about guys like Andy Reid, we talk about guys like Ben Johnson. Obviously, we know that Patrick Mahomes is an elite quarterback, but at the same time, the guys who are calling plays, Andy Reid, Ben Johnson, these are guys that are legitimate guys in their craft, and this could potentially be a game changer with Ben Johnson and Andy Reid.
Yeah, I mean, you're not playing again. It's not the freaking Browns and Saints, right? It's not. It's not teams that like sometimes show up and just don't score points. The Lions have a guy who's trying to again position himself to be a hot coaching candidate in 24 for the head coaching position. He has shown his desire and passion for this team. We're fully healthy. We had no preseason injuries outside of JMO, which he's suspended. We've added a lot of guys, and we're going to try to go out there and score. We know the idea. We know the mentality and the attitude and the idea of this team right now. It's different, right? This isn't the Lion. We're not doing a podcast of the 2020 Lions. We're talking about a team that's really come leaps and bounds. I think that I would, like I said, I'm staying away from the over under. If I had to guess, I guess I would put my money on the over just because of the fact that I think both teams are going to be looking to out trick and outplay the others. And I mean, what the hell is more synonymous of a shootout than Andy Reid, bro?
Is
Andy
there
Reid
any
known for those shootouts.
Is there any shot we get an all-time great game like the one that Goff and Mahomes had on Monday Night Football? Because
Very possible.
I think there is a legitimate shot, because if you see how good Patrick Mahomes is in Week 1, right? We've seen how good he was in Week 1 throughout his career. I think he's 8-0 or whatever, so he's got a good track record.
He's thrown 38 touchdowns and no picks in Week 1.
Right. So I mean, could I see a game where it's a shootout? Absolutely, because I think these two offenses are going to be prime for the taking, and I think a guy that could potentially be a guy who could potentially offset the game could be a guy on Kansas City side who is Rashee Rice, and for Detroit, it's Antoine Green. I think a lot of people are forgetting about Antoine Green, how he could potentially be a guy who could break open this game, because he's the least guy you expect. But if there was a guy I could expect to get open in a kind of like a fly route, it just was his raw speed, is Antoine Green. Yeah. I mean, everyone talks about Khalif Raymond, his separation ability, but the reality of the situation is a guy like Antoine Green with the speed to burn. Well, we've seen what he did against Carolina. I think he has the potential to do that with the.
Well, you saw me. You heard me right after the draft, dude. Right after the draft, and like throughout the preseason, like I've been high on Antoine Green the whole time. Yeah. I like Antoine Green a lot. I think like here's the weird thing about receivers, right? You can have a guy like Anquan Bolden who runs a 4.72.
Yeah.
But just gets open and is strong and has good hands and have a great career. You can have guys like John Ross or we just had one in Denzel Mims who's got the size, got tons of speed.
Well, John Ross didn't have the size, but
no, he had the speed. And, you got guys with 4.22 speed, 4.22 speed, 4.24 speed, but you look at Mims, 4.33 speed, 6'3", 6'2". But what you see in Antoine Green is you see he can catch at the high point. He's got good wheels. He's fast. He's got good route running, and he just seems like he's kind of your prototypical like project receiver because he has the things that you can't teach. He has the size. He has the speed. He has the skill to go up and get it. I honestly envision him as kind of being like my comp for him after the draft was a faster Marvin Jones. So I like that. I like seeing him in that role.
I got to tell you, though, I think that a lot of people, especially on the Detroit Lions side, I think they need to really take a look at Rashee Rice, the kid out of SMU. I think a lot of people are looking at like, okay, do they have a good wide receiver group? They do. I think that Kansas City does have a good wide receiver. It's very underrated. I think that the kid that they drafted in Rashee Rice, this is a kid who, if you watch him at SMU, he was a legit weapon, and I'm really scared to see what this guy could do with Mahomes in time, because you look at Rashee Rice, like at SMU, like no one thinks of SMU and they think of wide receivers. You usually think of guys like teams like LSU or Florida State or Ohio State that are turning out these wide receivers. But like Rashee Rice, like at SMU, he led the FBS in receiving yards per game with 112.9. His receiving yards were third, and his receptions per game were fifth in the country. So this is a guy that could potentially. He's a very underrated player. Kansas City Chiefs got a really good steal on this guy, and I think the Detroit Lions also got a steal with Antoine Green. I think Antoine Green obviously played with a great quarterback at North Carolina and Drake May, who is potentially going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft coming up in Detroit. But like I think that Antoine Green, he has the speed to burn. Rashee Rice has it all. I like Rashee Rice more than a lot of people. I think that that's a guy that the Detroit Lions need to watch out for. And I know that Aaron Glenn is going to be watching out for Rashee Rice, because if you watched him, you know exactly what he's capable of.
Yeah, I mean, and there's going to be a lot of like X factors throughout the season. There's going to be a lot of sneaky good guys. There's going to be a lot of guys that come like that make more contributions than you kind of would have ever thought. And so, and Kansas City is always loaded full of those guys. Like I could easily see, Justin Ross, and Rashee Rice, getting targets over like Kadarius Toney and some of these guys like that haven't proven to be consistent, even though Kadarius Toney was a first round pick. Andy Reid is very special, and Patrick Mahomes is very special. So if you are a receiver on the Kansas City Chiefs, you have potential to blow up, because you've got one of the best offensive play callers and offensive coaches in NFL history, and you have one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So, I mean, hey, it just depends on what they scheme up and what happens, what Mahomes magic comes up. But I don't know, man. I could see this being a very, very fun game. And the other thing too that I kind of wanted to say before we get into some other stuff is that this game is like Thursday night football. No other teams on. It's the NFL opener. These guys are going to come to show up and show out. So I'm thinking it's going to be a high scoring game.
Yeah, I think it could be a high scoring game too. I'm interested to see what the Lions defense does to counteract that. I feel more confident in the Lions defense than I really have in a long, long time. I mean, I know a lot of people go back to 2014, 2015 when they had that top 5 defense. But I always tell people that defense was total bullcrap because they could not stop the pass. And Cassius Vaughn, you might as well put him in a construction barrel, because that's all he was doing, especially in the postseason against the Cowboys. I mean, Terrence Williams is still running around. I mean, Cassius Vaughn was as slow as my grandma. And my grandma's dead.
The thing that was crazy about that team is our defensive line was stupid. Like, we had Cliff Averill,
that defensive line was so good that they made a bad pass defense look so good, look so much better than it was. And that's what really cost us against Dallas. A lot of people look at the flag. A lot of people look at the punt that they screwed up with Sam Martin. But that defense, they allowed too many points in the second half, and they didn't score enough points, and that's exactly how you lose games in the playoffs. Now, Tyler, we got to go to our bowl predictions, because this is the most important part of the podcast. Obviously, we did our bets and our parlays. We did that earlier. We did key matchups. We could, if you're watching and you're saying, "What are you guys talking about?" You can go back and watch it, especially on YouTube, Between the Whistles Detroit, or Detroit Lions News, or Between the Whistles on Facebook. You can go watch it there. Tyler, I'm interested to hear your bold predictions, because obviously, and I want to hear people's bold predictions in the comments, because I think there's a lot of bold predictions that could be put in place, right? If you are a Lions fan, you can make a bold prediction and be like, okay, this is gonna be a good. This is gonna be a show.
I'm gonna
What?
stick to my parlay thoughts as part of my bold prediction. My bold prediction is that both Lions rookies on offense, Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs, are both going to score a
Ooh,
touchdown.
ooh,
I think
ooh.
that it's going to be an opportunity for us to say, hey, we did get better at this spot. Here's what we can do. They're looking to come onto the scene strong. I think Laporta gets one. I think Gibbs gets one. And that's going to be my bold prediction, is that both of our new rookies on offense get a little taste of the end zone.
All right, I'm gonna do one ahead of you. I'm gonna add someone into that parlay. I might sprinkle like $10 on it, but I'm gonna add someone into that parlay. I'm gonna add Rashee Rice to that parlay because I really do think he's gonna score. I think he's one of the most dangerous players on his team. But if you add him, you add Sam Laporta, you take the Lions covering the spread at 5.5. $20 is going to win you $1,800, and I think that's a pretty good investment. You can make some
What
money on it.
what's the bold prediction of yours of just the Lions?
If I have a bold prediction for the Lions, I think that this is going to be the bold prediction. And I know if you look at the stats and you look at the facts that Patrick Mahomes never threw an interception in week 1, it changes Thursday.
Okay.
I think Kirby Joseph or Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is going to really take this. They're going to make a play. You know, they're playmakers. They're ball hawks. They like to go out there and make plays. And we've seen with Kirby Joseph, we've seen with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson that they can make plays just being total ball hawks. And, you know, obviously if we go back and we look at some of the things that we were talking about in the last episode with how good Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was at getting the interceptions. The act allowed wasn't that bad. Completion percentage wasn't that bad either. Obviously, when you take more chances, you're going to give up more. Completions. But if you get 6 interceptions, you're on my team no matter what. I think that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson could potentially change this game, or Kirby Joseph, one of the two. And I think that Patrick Mahomes will throw his first interception in his career in week 1.
Hey, man, I'm hoping so, man. That'd be really special, especially with these group of guys that give them a lot of juice moving forward.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting about this game because one of the things I think if you get in a shootout with Patrick Mahomes, that's a good way to lose because you never know how that could really show off. You know, I like what Jeffy, who is our Kansas City fan, that's chiming in. He says Lions, you know, they play the Chiefs pretty tough, and I agree. You know, if you go back to that game at Ford Field, remember that game, Tyler?
Which one?
The Chiefs versus the Lions at Ford Field. Remember that game? It was Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce.
I do. I was there.
Matt Patricia was the coach.
I
Remember
went to that game.
Yeah, exactly. I was there. I was there too, actually.
Oh, hell yeah.
But if you remember that game, it hinged on one particular play, and you know exactly what play I'm going to be talking about: the fumble at the goal line. So, carry on, Johnson. Now, look,
Dude.
I think it will be very, very crucial. The team that turns it over is probably going to lose this game. I really do think that's how it's going to be.
As the dude just picks it up and freaking.
That was insane. Now Scott has a bold prediction. He says, "I think Montgomery will score 2 or more touchdowns." Imagine if you put that in a parlay. Oh my God,
2 or more. Okay, Scott.
That's the kind of bold predictions we're talking about. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of you are putting these predictions, and they're soft as hell. Like you might as well put some bad predictions out there now. Now, Tyler, we got to get back to what we're talking about: the Chiefs and the Lions. Obviously, we're at the end of the podcast. We got to get into talking about our predictions on the score. And then we'll post a graphic on game day for a lot of the people to see. Where are you going with this Lions Chiefs game? I'm leaning more towards the Lions win.
I am too, and I don't know if that's just me being a Homer fan or me being like
optimistic.
No,
because I look, we come on this podcast and we talk truth. Okay, there's a lot of I'll put this out there for you, a lot of you Lions fans. If you want a podcast that's going to kiss the Lions' ass, this is not your podcast. But now last year, a lot of people called me an ass kisser because I thought Aaron Glenn was going to get it together. And little did we know, I was right. Now, I don't think it's a homerish opinion, Tyler, to talk about the Lions win this game. I really don't. I think that when you look at Chris Jones potentially being out. You look at Travis Kelce potentially being out. That is a game changer for the Lions, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if the Chiefs have enough firepower outside of Kelce on offense right now. It'll change as the season picks up because Mahomes will get comfortable with his guys. I see. I'm gonna say my prediction. I'm gonna also say we squeezed out with a win. I'm gonna say. Oh, man. We're gonna go 34-31.
Ooh, 34-31.
34-31. Yep.
Detroit.
Yep. Detroit.
Okay.
That's basically 4 touchdowns and a field goal for Kansas City, 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals for Detroit. Now, I just said the previous statement, which you guys might make fun of me for and say, well, I thought you just said he didn't have enough firepower. How the hell are you going to score 31 points? I think the Chiefs can score 30 points still without Travis Kelce. I do. I think that Mahomes is Mahomes. Andy Reid's Andy Reid. I mean, if I had to go a little bit lower, I mean, I could see maybe like a 27-24 game, but I just think that Mahomes finds a way to get a couple touchdowns in there. He runs his magic. He does some crazy shit. I think, I'm going to say Lions 34, Chiefs 31.
So Scott on the comments says 31-22 Lions. So that's a pretty damn good score. I think that's a little bit too low for the Chiefs. I mean, I don't know what the total is. Let me check the total. What does Vegas think that the totals could potentially be for these teams? Let me check this real quick. Totals. So they think the Detroit Lions total points, they have 23.5. You can go over. The Chiefs, they have 28.5. So if you said under and over, you're potentially looking at a pretty good payout. Now,
I like the Lions over 23.5.
Yeah, I do too. You know, my score is probably going to wow a lot of people because I think this is going to be a total shootout. I'm going to go 40-38.
Okay.
I think no matter if Travis Kelce plays in this game or not, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to put it on himself to win this game. And it's up to Jared Goff to answer the bell. Now, The thing about Patrick Mahomes, a lot of people go, well, where's his weapons? I just told you one, Rashee Rice, the kid out of SMU. But you look at Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore in his second year. I think Sky Moore that's going to be a potential breakout player. But I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be a model of towards what LA and Kansas City had in that Monday Night Football game. I think this potentially could be an all-time great. And Darcy, who is in the Detroit Lions news show, who's on Detroit Lions news all the time with his cast of characters, including me sometimes, he says 27-24 Lions win over the Chiefs, and that's a pretty good game. And I think that anybody would take that. Tyler, where did you go?
I'm here.
What are you going to the bathroom or something?
I had to turn off like the notifications that were kept blowing up. The Tigers just got a hit and scored, and MLB was blowing me up, so I had to shut those down.
I know. I gotta tell you something. If the Lions are like the Tigers this year, I swear to God, I'll be throwing shit through the TV. I swear to God.
Hey, don't get me started. Hey, we gotta hope these guys can freaking pull off some dubs, man.
No, screw them. They suck too. We gotta hope that Red Wings.
I know.
We gotta hope that the Red Wings and Lions pull together because literally, like, I don't have much faith in the Pistons. I think that they're gonna be a couple years away, but the Tigers, I think they could be good next year, maybe. But God, we need the Lions to be good because man, that'd be so great. Now, Tyler, I wanted to ask you this as our final question, and then we'll have our final thoughts on the program. You know, we're an hour into this. We've had a lot of viewers. It's been great to talk to people in the comments. Watch people have these, insane opinions, especially our favorite Chiefs fan, Jeffy KC. You know, Jeffy is whatever. I don't care. I'm not good at that. So anyway,
I got you, dog.
Now, John Alicia Shelton, he says Lions 35, KC 31. So that would be over and over on the.
You had to go total. One above mine, didn't you, John?
Well, everyone has to go one above you. Now, anyways,
I said 34-31. You got to one up me. 35-31. Okay.
Now, what was I about to say?
You know what? I hope it's gonna be 35-31, and Riley Patterson shanks of an XP just so that you're wrong.
Now, what was I gonna say? What was I gonna go on? Okay, what did I say?
It's
You
just
threw me
closing
off.
thoughts and bullshit, and I don't
Oh,
know.
fine. Oh, so anyways, back to my point. Tyler threw me off like he usually does. Now, if you're new to the program and you're like, "What the hell does happen?" This is what happens all the time. Tyler throws me off, and I get sidetracked, and ADD catches in. You know, my girlfriend would say ADD always catches in with me, but it does. Anyways, now Tyler, I'm gonna play a scenario for you. The Lions win against Kansas City. They come home. How loud will that place be in Detroit when they play the Seattle Seahawks?
Man, it's gonna feel different, and it'll truly set in. Like that means the hype is real, and this team is for real,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be crazy, man. I mean, um, think about it, right? We start off a season 3-1, 4-1 instead of the other way around for once. I mean, and all that hype and talent is around us, man. Like I think one of our keys is we always go like we start off kind of like almost there, and then we rattle off some wins, and it gives us hope for the next season. Like let's change that shit around and let's start off strong. Let's go into the freaking when's our bye week this week or this year?
It's after the Monday Night Football game, so after Halloween.
So okay, so probably what week 8?
Yeah.
So I mean,
Week 9.
let's go into the bye week. 6-2, man. Like, how special would it be for us to actually be like going into our break, like feeling good, feeling positive, feeling great? I mean, there are going to be some games this year that we will lose that we shouldn't lose. It's just football. That's how things go. We will lose to a team that we shouldn't lose to. But you know what? We're going to beat teams that we shouldn't beat either. And I'm looking at the schedule, and there's not a lot of teams I see on here that like I'm scared that they're just going to mollywop the shit out of us. Like, I mean, the Chiefs are one of those teams that like could potentially, you know, really give it to us, just given the history of the Chiefs. But with them missing their biggest playmaker on defense, one of their biggest playmakers on defense, and their biggest playmaker on offense, we've got our chance, and our chances now. We win in Arrowhead. We're going to come back to a very excited, happy, pumped up, out of this world fan base against Seattle, and it's going to be something else, man.
Okay, so if you beat the Chiefs, all right, you got the Seattle Seahawks, which that could be a potentially win. If you beat Seattle, if you beat Kansas City, that could potentially be a win. Seattle, you got the Falcons coming in, which I really do think the Falcons could be a sneaky team, especially with Bijan Robinson. You got the Packers on Thursday Night Football on Prime, which if you're not subscribed to Prime, find someone who is for Week 4. That's September 28th. That'll be on a Thursday. And then you got the Panthers, the Buccaneers, the Ravens, which is at Baltimore. That's always going to be a tough game.
That's probably a loss.
Then you come home to the Raiders, and then you got the bye week, Week 9. So I was right. The Week 9 is the bye week.
This schedule is full of sneaky teams, but teams that we should be able to beat easy.
I think okay, if you want the truth, I think that the 3 sneaky games in that stretch, I think one could be the Seahawks, which is obvious. The Falcons are another one. The Ravens are another one. And then if you really want to play devil's advocate, the Packers could potentially be one at Lambeau Field. I know people are discounting the Packers right now, but it could be potential. It could be a potential win.
Yeah, I think that the only I kind of count the Ravens as a loss, I know I want the Chiefs. It's gonna. I mean, I don't know what to expect. It's gonna go either way.
If you want to beat the Ravens, all you have to do is get Lamar behind. Period. End of story.
I mean, but again, we should handle those teams for the most part, but there's always a team that comes in that's more prepared, more fired up, and just has a better game plan than you. And we're not going to go, we're not going to go 17-0. That's obvious. But so there are going to be teams that beat you that shouldn't, and you're going to beat teams that you shouldn't. But I think looking at the schedule, man, and we've gone over our records, and I think we had the same one. I definitely see a 12-win season out of these guys. We don't play a lot of powerhouses. I think this is like almost like a perfect schedule for an up and coming team with a lot of talent because it tests you some, but it's not so much to be like, I remember a few years ago, man, the schedule came out and it was just like every week it was like, oh my God, dude. Like we played like 5 of the best teams in the NFC in the first like 8 weeks, and it was like, holy hell, man.
So Darcy has a Super Bowl prediction. I want to run this past you because I know I'm gonna say hell no because we got to talk about Darcy about for a minute. He said Seahawks versus Ravens. I don't know what the hell he's on. It's like all the Canadian smoke wildfire that's coming from his ass right now because I cannot see Lamar Jackson in the Super Bowl. I don't care what anybody says. Do I see him beating Patrick Mahomes? Do I see him beating Joe Burrow or Aaron Rodgers? Absolutely
Man,
not.
Darcy, I think you're a solid dude, but you gotta put the crack down, brother. Like Seahawks, man, ain't
That's
no
my guy,
way.
man. Don't be like that. Now, Jeremy from the comments, he says, I don't think they're going to pass it very easily against the Lions secondary. Well, it says Lions, but it probably got auto-corrected. Lions secondary, you got Cameron Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley. Emmanuel Mosley might not play, Jeremy. You got Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, and the list goes on. I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting what people are talking about.
John just
Obviously,
said a potential matchup for Super Bowl could be the one we're talking about right now. How crazy would that be?
could you imagine?
Oh man,
Yeah. Oh my God.
entirely possible.
So my dog's going crazy in the background right now. She's hyped about the Lions too. So let's get to our final closing thoughts. Tyler, so you go first.
Yeah, man. I mean, Jeremy, finishing up what you say about our secondary, kind of wrap this into my closing thoughts. Cameron Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, and the list goes on. I think that um, it is an upgraded secondary, but these are guys that have to learn how to play together, and they have to be able to get live reps together because none of them have played together. And the ones that have, Sutton and Mosley, they played together at Tennessee, correct? Joe?
What?
Sutton and Mosley played together at Tennessee?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, most of these guys have never played together, besides obviously those two, but that was years ago. But so you're going to have the opportunity to see these guys grow and to gel and to actually get live reps together. So although that list is talented, I do think it'll take some time for that to gel, and they have to gel together just like any other cohesive unit. But it is going to be fun to see when they start hitting full strength. My closing thoughts today, just revolved around the team in general. We're going to come out and try to be, we're going to try to punch you in the mouth. I think we're going to try to run it early and often and take control of this game. And I think that, Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson see it's important that we're going to be able to have to take our shots, calculate our shots, and not be too crazy and careless with the ball. I think we're going to see some chances. I think that they believe that they can win this. So, and I do too. So I think that's going to be something where, you have to get involved with chunk plays and plays that are just going to be able to actually break this game open and break into this game. So I expect us to be creative. I expect us to try to score a lot of points. And if you really want to make a statement, shove it down their damn throats. Like score, 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 and try to do your best to really make a statement. I mean, can you imagine? I'm not saying this is going to happen, and I'm not saying this is even entirely possible, but could you imagine if we came out and we absolutely spanked the shit out of the Chiefs? Like, could you actually imagine? Like I said, very improbable. The Chiefs are the reigning champions. They have a great coaching staff, great players, great quarterback. But could you imagine if we actually came out here and just absolutely smacked the shit out of these guys, man, beat them by 21 points, 24 points? It'd be insane. And I think that that's the mentality the Lions are having, is they're going to want to come in here and just make a statement and say the league is ours now. We're done being the bottom dwellers. We're going to come in here. We're going to take the league by storm. And I think if every guy on that team is as confident as that, and they are executing and they are killing it, I think they can come in here and they can show in front of the whole country, man. Probably some places in other countries that are tuning in to watch, that they can finally show what they're made of, and they can come in here and they can make an actual statement. Week 1 is the statement of all statements. Not like we couldn't have gone against a tougher team, man. It's the Super Bowl reigning freaking champion. So we got to come in here and we got to smack these dudes in the side of the head, and we got to make a statement. Whether it's a really hard fought game or whatever it may be, we come out with a win. We just got to make sure we come in here and we make some noise. So whether it's a close game or whether we win, we've got to do something that makes people finally respect the Detroit Lions. Like, we're coming to get ours right now. We're coming to get ours Thursday, baby.
So my closing thought is a little bit different. I think that a lot of Lions fans need to sack up for a minute, because when you talk about the Detroit Lions, largely a lot of people are scared to get on the boat, right? They're scared to get on the team because they've been hurt so many times. If you are one of those people, you just got to look at what this team has been able to do under the ownership of Sheila Hamp Ford. If you read that article in the Athletic, I challenge you to go read that article. It's a very great article on Sheila and what she did to hire Chris Spielman, and how she said, let's go make the Detroit Lions one of the best teams that they've had in 75 years. She was talking about championship when she said that. And when you hear about Sheila talking about, when she came to the defense of Dan Campbell last year when they were 1-6, when you hear about the story that she wanted her office in the middle of the action, between all the offices, she wanted to be in the middle. It tells you that you got an owner that actually cares. You got an owner for, a lot of people were talking about a long time ago. They were talking about, the Lions need new owners, right? The Lions need new owners. They need an owner like Mike Ilitch was, right? It seems to me like Sheila Hamp could be that owner that you've always been waiting for the Detroit Lions. And it doesn't matter about what, that she's a woman. It doesn't matter about, that she comes from a really prestigious family. I always tell people there's always a dog in someone, right? You know that if you you're either a dog or you're not. And a dog is someone that will win at all costs. And I think that Sheila Hamp Ford has been doing an absolute great job. And if you want any staple of indication of where this Detroit Lions team is going, you got to look at Sheila Hamp Ford and what she's been able to do, bringing in Chris Spielman and changing the organization, getting his feedback, bringing in Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes. Not, Brad Holmes didn't make that hire. Sheila did.
Well, you brought Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson back into the building.
Yeah, she brought both those. And then I like the advisory board that she was doing when she was trying to hire a general manager and a coach. She brought in guys like Steve Eiserman. She brought in guys like Mark Hollis from Michigan State athletic director for many years. She did a lot of unorthodox things to make this team better, and she did do a pretty damn good job in hiring Dan Campbell and hiring Brad Holmes, and she deserves full credit for that. I know a lot of people are going to look at it like, man, like the Ford family is always screwed up, right? They've always screwed up for a multitude of issues, but Sheila Hamp Ford has done a really good job at making this her own. And she's done a really good job of doing everything that you could ever ask as a Lions fan. And I think if you're going to look at any indication of what this team could be, you look at the ownership, because it always starts at the top. When the Lakers were winning their world championships in the NBA, it was Jimmy Buss that was at the top. When the Tigers and Red Wings were at their top of their level, it's because they had an owner named Mike Ilitch. The George Steinbrenner in New York, they won because of him. He said, what, screw it. I don't care about the how much I pay these guys. I'll have the biggest payroll. Look at the Dodgers owners. They don't care. They're throwing money out there like it's like they print their own money. Good ownership is how it's how it works. Like, if you don't have good ownership, you're screwed. And for once in our life as Lions fan, we could really say that we have a good owner in Sheila Hamp Ford. I mean, I thought we had a good owner in Martha, and she was just a little older, so she wasn't going to obviously be in touch with reality. But Sheila Hamp Ford, she has been a really good owner for this team, and she's made the right decisions, and that's a key barometer of what you could expect from this Detroit Lions team moving forward.
Absolutely, man. I know. I agree with you, and it's funny because forever they said the Lions will never be good until they sell the team, get away from the Ford, sell the team. Well, they did something a little better, and they just passed it down to Sheila Hamp Ford, and just got it into the hands of somebody that really cares, and just seeing her,
just takes pride in it.
Just seeing her interact. I mean, look at, if you guys watch the Inside the Den.
Yeah, she was in on every conversation. So
and she doesn't do it in a way where she's like trying to like tell Brad Holmes what to do. She's genuinely curious. She's like, well, why'd you go this guy here? Like, just tell me like your thought process. Like, she's genuinely like curious.
She wants to learn.
Yeah, and that's great. You want somebody that's gonna say, hey, I'm not questioning you. That's your job. I hired you. You do what you got to do. But teach me. Tell me why you're thinking that way. Let me get inside your mind. Like I want to know why too, because it helps me grow and learn as an owner. And I think, dude, she has surpassed anyone's expectations, and she is easily starting to turn into one of the best owners in all of sports.
Fred said the same thing. He said, I think Sheila is phenomenal. Even watch her in the war room during the draft and Holmes walking her through what she wants to know and also why she wants to learn. And I think that's the biggest thing. When you have an owner that wants to learn the ins and outs of the game, she's only going to get better as we go on. I mean,
Because you know what? Then someone's going to say, hey, we need this from you, Sheila. And she's going to say, okay, well, why? And then they tell her, and she's going to say, okay, done. Because I trust you, and I know what you're talking about.
Let's get to the comments. There's a couple comments that I want to go over before we end this podcast. On Facebook, Andre said Mahomes better bring his running shoes because the pass is not going to be there. I thought that was pretty. I think that was pretty. But David Barnett on YouTube, he had he had one, and this is something that could go down as a bold prediction. Tyler, Houston as an X factor. Mahomes runs for his life. 3 sacks, 8 pressures. But that would be, if you can get pressure on Mahomes like that, you are going to be in a very good spot, because when we see in the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he was running for his life the whole time.
David, I will tell you this. I'm going to call it out on the podcast. If James Houston gets 3 sacks and 8 pressures, I will send you a James Houston jersey.
Woo! Woo!
Straight up.
David, you hear that? You better hold this man accountable. You better.
Absolutely.
He is. You can get his information really quick through our. Now
I'm dead serious, bro. If he gets 3 sacks and 8 pressures, I will be ecstatic. I will mail you. I will make sure I get your info, man. I'll get your address. I will buy you a James Houston jersey. You let me know your size and your address, and I will send it to you, my man, because that would be an incredible game from James Houston, and that would be something I would not see coming at all. That would be out of left field, man. So, hey, for your sake and for the Lions, I hope that comes true, brother, because that'd be amazing.
Now, Tyler, we are at the end of the podcast. For people on Apple and Spotify, you can go and watch us on Between the Whistles Detroit YouTube page. You can also go on Detroit Lions News, the Facebook page, and Between the Whistles Facebook page. I also posted on my Twitter, so for people to watch on Twitter if they wanted to. Obviously, we'll come back to you at maybe Friday. We might do a podcast to go over what we saw with the Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs. I might break in with a live feed. I'm gonna be with my cousin. I'm gonna be with my cousin Chip. And so if the Lions do win, we are coming in live. I guarantee you that. So it was good. The feedback we had on this podcast alone, I mean, I'm guessing we had 3,000 people watch this damn thing. So that's pretty amazing. We will see you guys in the next podcast. And if you're new to the podcast and you didn't even know we are around, you can go find us on Spotify, Apple, Odyssey, all those ones. I want to get to one last comment before we leave. Fred Patterson says Mahomes is going to be stuck because Kelsey is this drop-off guy. Mahomes gets pressure, and Kelsey is always right there. You know, he's right. I'm not even going to lie with him. Fred is right. Now, David Barnett, he responded too. So you ain't. He goes, great. I need his info. He is just confident in that, man.
I'll make sure I get to you, David. I promise, man. I will.
We'll hold his feet to the fire. Well, listen. If this happens, we are photoshopping Tyler's face on Patrick Mahomes. How about that? All right. Now, it was a great podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Me and Tyler appreciate it. We will see you in the next podcast as we break down the Lions-Chiefs game after the game. Friday, probably we'll do that more often than not. And then we might break in with a live feed. Maybe. But that would probably be a bad idea if we're intoxicated. So we will see you. We will see you in the next podcast of the Detroit Lions News podcast. I'm, Detroit Lions News, and you can go watch on Between the Whistles Detroit if you are new to the channel. And we will see you in the next one. And let's hope the Lions come home with a victory.
See you guys.
It's always so slow. There we go. It's all right. Nope. What the hell? And the broadcast.
Just hanging out a little longer for you fellas.
Yeah, we're just hanging out a little longer,